The federal government has once again announced the closure of the Amherst Armoury. And here to talk about this latest and sudden announcement is Amherst Mayor Rob Small. Mayor Small, this must be a shock to you and your council.
Absolutely a shock, Bill, and very disappointed in the lack of communication, the lack of just coordination. I'm just disappointed completely with the events. And you spoke about several members of Parliament and them being involved. I'm just disappointed that it came to this today, or yesterday, I should say. And as you mentioned, Bill Casey may have said the more of the same stuff. It's just, I don't think that there was ever any intention of the forces doing something with the armories. I know our member of parliaments have said they won't close it, guarantees they'll do something. Never happened, and of course, been around for a while now, and so I've heard the story a few times, and not a dime has been put into that place. It's just continued to go downhill, and I get why they closed it. I mean, you got water running through the roof, you got mushrooms and mold all, growing within the facility. Oh, I know why, and if I was an inspector for health or whatever, sure, I'd have to close it. But, this goes back a long ways, and I just don't think there was the commitment there by the forces to ensure that facility was maintained.
Well, and there appears to be no question about that. And I want to draw a comparison with another armory, but we'll get to that momentarily. I want to talk here about the fact that this place has been home to a spectacular military museum, and the federal government can take no credit for that whatsoever. A marvelous project headed by Ray Coulson, and he gets notice to get out. The notice went to the so-called tenants of the facility. I say the tenants are the community. That's everybody, all of us in the county, in fact. And you can't just pick up a museum and run it down the street. So what are they thinking? What's Ray Coulson? What are we supposed to do about that?
These are the great questions, and those are the questions that need to be posed. Because, actually, they should have been posed before they even decided they were going to close it. What do we do with this? What do we do with that? And, poor Ray, he has been the backbone of that museum since the beginning. And the work that he and his friends and family and others have put into that museum is remarkable, to say the least. And so for him to now just to be told, no, you can't go in the building anymore. It's just shocking. And, yes, we're going to make contact with our newly elected federal member of parliament. But really, the commitment has to come from our National Defense Department. They're the ones that hold the purse strings on this. And, I don't know, the roof, let's say, $120,000 to replace it. They can't find $120,000, really? I don't think they got the commitment to fix the building.
Well, let me jump back and at the same time jump ahead, talking about fixing the building. There was a very similar situation abruptly came up in Halifax. You probably well know where I'm going with this. And the very famous Halifax Armoury right there on the Commons, a humongous big building that stands in prominence as part of the Halifax skyline, you might say, certainly around the big park. They faced similar concerns a number of years back. But the solution then, the department, the federal group involved in the property ownership, the Department of Defense, as you pointed out, they dragged their feet on this issue for a very, very long time in Halifax as well. But the solution, ultimately, the solution was not to close that facility. The solution became a very, very high-profile, multi-million-dollar, multi-year work project. Why the double standard, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, great question. I wish I knew the answer because we'd go down the same road to figure out how they managed to do that. So
I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how.
Yeah,
Votes.
sure.
Seats in
Well,
Parliament and votes.
yeah,
We have one. They have a few, and
yeah,
that political power, political clout
yeah,
rather, and
yeah.
what a shame. Do you feel like I do a little bit sometimes that we're just taken for granted?
Certainly, when it comes to this type of project, absolutely.
Now, having said that, you mentioned you're going to get in touch with Alana Hurtle, the current member of Parliament who won on the Liberal or the government side, if you will. And have you heard any discussions, had any discussions rather, of any kind on any topic with our new MP?
Not when it comes. No, no. The answer is no. I know that she's just getting into the swing of things, but I did see her on Canada Day, and I did indicate that we need to get together and talk about the priorities for, of course, Amherst and Cumberland County. So she said that she would be available, right away to meet. But I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't know anything about this Armoury closure either. But
well, you're being kind when you say that. I asked that question because there's a fair bit of scuttlebutt going on, largely in social media, that Ms. Hurtle has been hard to reach on any issue. And of course, I've been in contact with her team of people, and initially they said they have to set up an office, and about two of them, in fact, one in Cumberland, one in Colchester, get her organized, to get a staff in place. A couple of the people that worked on her election campaign are, in fact, transitioning into her staff. But that's going back plus a month ago, and still no contact, no promotion as to where you reach her, no dialogue with her. I extended the hand, of course, to invite her onto the program, and her people, her communications people, thought that was a great idea and thanked me profusely and said they'd get back to me, and never did. Have you heard any scuttlebutt that for whatever reason she's hard to reach?
The only thing I could contribute to the reason why is possibly that when I was speaking to her on Canada Day, that she indicated that they were on 12 hours, in the House to get bills passed before the closure, and especially this bill, oh my goodness, the one for Canada to build Canada's future. That Prime Minister Carney was pushing to get completed.
The big projects bill across Canada, yeah.
Yeah, that one. And so anyway, she indicated that they had been working, day night in house, in obviously in Parliament to get it passed, and she was sitting that whole time. So access to her would be limited, of course, but. No, that's over now.
Well, and we can give some latitude, I guess is a good word, for the rookie member of Parliament, first time in Parliament. It's a humongous step, I can tell you from first personal experience, to be involved with people who've made that step. And, just suddenly to be moved from rural Nova Scotia to Ottawa and on Parliament Hill, in the government side of the House of Commons, that is just a humongous big step. And I mean, I want to give her a lot of latitude, of course. For the fact that she's there is a major step forward, obviously. And so, a little bit of latitude for the rookie. And I can't help but wonder, this is not a political movement coming out of her party. This is a movement of the bureaucracy wanting to rid themselves of an expensive repair bill on an old building that they don't see any future for. Is this perhaps an aggressive bureaucracy that's taking advantage of a rookie member of Parliament?
Great question. Maybe some of that might be there, that they say this is the time to pull the trigger when you talk about defense. But I think this has been a long time coming as far as the lack of investment in the building, and so finally they do have a strong reason, and that is health and safety of anyone that's in the building. And I think it's a bit of both. I think that they may be taking advantage of the newly elected MP to get her done, sort of thing. Because it's been on and on and on for a number of years, right? So,
but it begs the question, what is it they want to do? And of course, if the answer is they want to simply tear down the building and throw away the historic stone that it was built with, versus selling it to somebody who wants to make good use of it. Because if you want to sell something like that today, if it has mold, if it has defects, the seller has to fix those things before you sell it. And maybe they just want to throw it away. Perhaps that's the case. And, your council endorsed a housing plan that included space for the museum and for the community. Now, where does that plan sit with this announcement? I mean, are they giving up any aspect or prospect of selling the building or donating the building to the town or to the community, and a very well thought out housing plan?
No, I don't know the answer to those questions, but you're right. These are the types of things that we need to find out what is it that can be done at this point. I think that in the short term, the federal government and the Department of National Defense need to find a home for the museum, and Ray and his team of veterans that have been working very hard to put forth our history and just respect the work that they've done. They can't access that building, and I also think that the federal government needs to find a place for our cadet corps and those that use the facility while they figure out what it is that at the end of the day will be I'll call it disposition or resolution or whatever you want to call it for this building.
Now, of course, you mentioned some absolute needs that should be considered or should have been considered already, moving the museum, moving the cadets, and so on. But at the same time, we're living in a time when there's a national housing shortage. There's a national affordable housing shortage. There is a national housing shortage problem for veterans of the armed services. And the plan that was presented to your council that you endorsed involved affordable housing and had a provision for first come from the needs of veterans to be housed in this housing project in the Armoury. What a natural fit. Imagine giving your time and your services to the country in the armed forces, and then as you hit retirement or as a veteran, and maybe veteran with medical concerns and so on brought about by your service in the armed forces, ending up being able to live in the Armoury. To me, I'm the son of a soldier. I'm an Army brat. And to think about living in the Armoury for the latter part of your life, there's a certain cachet about that from my perspective.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So here's a department that just wants to throw it in a dust pile. They could be solving a housing problem, a veterans housing problem, an affordability of housing problem, a place for the continuation of they get all the answers in one if they would simply work with the people who want to take over the building.
That's true. I can't argue with any of that.
Isn't that what they call a no-brainer?
Yes, for you and I, that's what we call a no-brainer.
I've said so many times about what a gentleman you are, and the emphasis on the word gentle. Here we are with a major crisis that's erupted right in your town, and you acknowledge it is a crisis, it is a problem, it is a concern that needs immediate attention. But through it all, you've got a smile on your face, and you're being kind to the ones who are causing the problem and bringing it to a head. So, when I say you're a gentleman, I mean it.
Well, let's hope that we can come up with a solution, right?
Well, there is a solution, of course, and it's staring us all, it's staring them right in the face. And I don't know if they needed to take this roughshod action in order to push it forward, because it has been a classic case of humongous foot dragging for not just years but decades.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that even though Bill Casey's retired, that maybe he has some super insight as well into steps forward.